Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Channel Sheo. Today, we're going to be talking about a few things, including our first lesson in Japanese culture, as well as a few things about Warframe. First things first, let's discuss what it's like living in Japan. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the country here. A lot of people think of Japan as a country with so many rules, a big book of rules that stands as tall as the Empire State Building, and if you break any one of those rules, you are persona non grata. They're going to skip your butt across the sea back to wherever it is you came from. This is not true. Japan is actually a fairly understanding country when it comes to people visiting. There's a sense that they don't expect you to be masters of the Japanese culture. They don't expect you to know anything about the Japanese language. And heck, if you even say that you know Son Goku, they're going to be amazed by that. And heaven forbid, we even somewhat say, Ohayou gozaimasu, because they're going to lose their lids when you say that. Because, oh my God, he speaks Japanese. That's so amazing. And it is amazing to them. It's just like if you go to America and somebody says, howdy y'all, you'll probably be really surprised. But as understanding as they can be for visitors coming in, and this is the majority of people in this country, you will also be surprised to learn that there is one rule that I think is held above all others, more so than how to properly bow or how to properly use your chopsticks, also known as hashi in Japan, how to drink tea and how to do anything. There's one rule, and if there was a big book of Japanese rules to adhere to, rule 1 on page 1, don't rock the boat. Rocking the boat can be fun at times, I get it. There's this image that you can come to Japan and do whatever the heck you want, mess around, go crazy in Shibuya, and it does set a very bad example for the Japanese when it comes to people visiting. The image is that foreigners are really crazy and we ought to probably not deal with them. So the fact of the matter is, when you are visiting Japan, or if you're coming here to live, let's say you're becoming a dispatch teacher, or you're a private teacher, or you're a student, or you're a rich banker, or working for Audi, or whatever, you're going to have to understand that living in harmony with the society is the most important thing you can do when coming to this country. Even if you're only visiting for a few days or weeks, be in tune with the people around you. Don't think that you can get out of jail free, that you're I'm only here for a bit so I can go crazy. That is not what you should do. The Japanese value harmony. The Japanese value unity. The Japanese value the sense that everybody is in it together. This stems from a long history of very bad things. Think about it for a few seconds. Japan is a nation that exists with tsunami, volcanoes, typhoons, earthquakes, gigantic frickin' centipedes that like to crawl into people's shoes. This is a nation of endurance. And so they make sure that who they are, that their culture is maintained, that their peace is maintained. And as a visitor, the best gesture you can make is to show that you value that harmony as much as anybody else would. That will impress the people more than anything. That will get you further in this country more than anything, more than in the ability to speak Japanese. To have the reputation of an individual that's respectful, that's honest and kind, will get you very far. So please keep that in mind if you plan on visiting Japan. I do recommend coming here. As a visitor to Japan, they're not going to expect you, again, to bow correctly. They're either going to go too shallow or too deep, but that's okay. They know you're from a different culture. So don't be too worried about it and just do your best to come here and be kind. You'll figure things out. Many Japanese will be very proud to have you. They want to share their culture with you. Maybe you'll feel a little pressed to eat some of the stranger foods, like, oh my God, is that octopus still alive? Maybe. But you don't have to partake in any of that, okay? If you don't like sushi, you don't have to eat sushi. If you don't like sashimi, you don't have to eat sashimi. If you don't like Genghis Khan, you don't have to eat Genghis Khan. And so you're like, wait, I don't have to eat a Mongolian warlord? That's amazing. No. Okay, first, Genghis Khan is a type of lamb, very popular in Hokkaido. You don't have to partake in anything that you don't want. Don't feel that kind of pressure, because that does not adhere to the first rule, which is be harmonious. Okay? It's okay. So, when you come to Japan, relax, be kind, be friendly, and most importantly, enjoy your stay. If this is your first time playing the game, I can understand that, well, the game is 6 years old. How the heck do I get into a 6-year-old game when everybody else is so far ahead of me? Well, the core concept of Warframe is it's PvE, player versus enemy, which means AI enemy. So there's really no real threat to you first coming into the game. Oh, but how do I get all this stuff? How can I get all this cool stuff that I keep seeing on YouTube? You just play the game. And so I'm going to discuss with you a little bit about how I got into Warframe and how I went from just messing about the star map or the star chart and started getting a little more serious about actually accruing frames, accruing weapons, and got to the point where I was able to do sorties relatively easily, do high-level missions, without dying. And the first thing you have to understand is, Warframe is a marathon. Now, you could try to mad dash this thing, but Warframe is a marathon of a game. And so what you'll want to do is just hop into the game and play. You are rewarded just for playing this game by accruing materials at each of the planets. Those materials will be used towards weapons. Now, you can build almost anything in the game without paying real-world money for it, as long as you are playing the game. So, hint number one, if you're a new player, when you're going into the maps, collect everything you find. If you see an object, break it and get the material. If you see a box, break it and get the material. Never leave anything behind. Just collect and collect and collect. And eventually this will become second nature, where you just go around bashing everything and opening it up. That's important for you. The next thing I recommend is play a lot. You can get a lot done. A mission can take anywhere between 40 or so seconds if you're really booking it, up to about 30 minutes or more if you're in a long-term survival mission. So with that in mind, you should be able to accrue a lot of material very quickly and also gain a lot of experience very quickly. The next hint I recommend is make sure you're collecting a lot of weapons. There's a lot of weapons from the outset you can use credits to buy. So that means that you don't have to use platinum, you don't have to wait to build them, you can just go in there and after a few rounds of game, you can buy those weapons. Buy them. Even if you're like, I don't really like this weapon, use them because that's going to get you experience. And those experience points are going to be used to upgrade your player's level or your character's level. And there's a mastery system in Warframe. As you play as these weapons and these Warframes and you level them up, you gain mastery. And so your first few levels of mastery should go by pretty quickly because a lot of stuff is going to be available to you very easily. So that's a very important thing. Just keep playing the game. Don't get discouraged. Find a frame that you like and go for that frame. For example, very early on, I liked Nyx. And so I went for Nyx. You can get Nyx probably very early on if you have friends who play the game or you just piggyback with other players into forward missions. And forward is an enemy type that drops Nyx's components. Keep that in mind, Always go for something. Create little goals for yourself. That's another little tip I create for myself is, I want to see what the Tigers can do. How powerful can I make that? I want to know what it's like to play as a certain character, so I'm going to go for that. And there are a lot of characters that seem very far out of reach. To get to Mesa, you have to really go through pretty much the whole star chart to reach her. In order to unlock Atlas, you got to go through a lot of the star chart to reach him. In order to get to some of these characters, it's going to take a while. Saren, for example, takes a long time to reach. But it's okay because there's a lot going on. And of course, if you are rolling in the dough, you can just buy certain things like the Prime Access. And that's going to be entirely your choice to buy those things. So those are just a few of my quick tips just off the top of my head. All right, everybody, that's all from me today. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.